Natalie's worst day doesn't start with tears. It starts with 2 blue checkmarks. Because the message her ruthless Ice King CEO just opened isn't a report. It's her baby bump photo. 1 second later, his text hits. My office, now. Natalie walks in expecting to be fired, pregnant, dumped, broke, and alone, until he looks her dead in the eye and says the last words she ever expected from a man like him. Marry me. Not for love, not for romance. A contract, a ring, a new last name, and one promise. He'll claim her child as his. But here's the question. Why would the coldest man in Richmond risk his empire for a baby that isn't his? Because before the wedding even happens, the baby's real father shows up at their door with one demand: give me the child, or I'll destroy you in court. And on the same week, Hyun-woo buries the only woman who ever raised him, his grandmother. Natalie's water breaks. A birth, a funeral, a new family, built from a mistake that should have ruined her life. So tell me, was that accidental text her downfall? Or the moment her real life finally began? Welcome to Afro-Korean Drama TV. Like, subscribe, and comment where you are watching from. Natalie stood in the employee break room at Richmond Towers, staring at her phone screen with horror spreading through her chest. The photo she'd just sent wasn't the quarterly report she'd spent 3 days perfecting. It was the photo Cheapo had insisted she take that morning. The one showing her small but unmistakable baby bump at 4 months pregnant. And she'd sent it to Hyun-woo Kim, her boss. The ruthless CEO who'd made 3 assistants cry in the last month alone. The man who reportedly fired someone for bringing him lukewarm coffee. No, 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 she whispered, her fingers shaking as she tried to recall the message. But the tiny check marks showed he'd already seen it. Already opened it. Her best friend Cheapo grabbed her arm. What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. I sent the baby photo to Mr. Kim instead of you, Natalie managed, her voice barely above a whisper. The one from this morning. Cheapo's eyes went wide. The bump photo? To your boss? The scary one who everyone says has ice in his veins? Natalie nodded, feeling tears prick her eyes. This job was everything. After leaving Malawi 3 years ago, after building a life here in Richmond, Virginia, after finally getting a position at one of the top architectural firms in the state, she couldn't lose it. Not now. Not when she had a baby coming and Tendai had already made it clear he wanted nothing to do with them. Her phone buzzed. A message from Hyun-woo Kim. My office. Now. I'm getting fired, Natalie said flatly. 4 months pregnant, dumped by my boyfriend last week, and now I'm losing my job. Cheapo squeezed her hand. Maybe he'll understand? Maybe, but Natalie was already walking toward the elevator, her heels clicking against the polished floor. She'd heard the stories. Hyun-woo Kim didn't do understanding. He did results, efficiency, and cold business decisions. A pregnant employee with a messy personal life? She was probably already replaced in his mind. The elevator ride to the top floor felt like walking to her own execution. When she stepped into his office, he was standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the James River, his back to her. The late afternoon sun caught his dark hair, and she noticed for probably the 1,000th time that he was unfairly attractive for someone so cold. Close the door, he said, without turning around. Natalie did, her heart hammering. Mr. Kim, I'm so sorry. That photo was meant for my friend, and I know it's unprofessional, and I understand if you need to. You're pregnant. He turned to face her, his expression unreadable. Those dark eyes that usually felt like they could see through concrete were studying her face. Yes, 4 months. She lifted her chin, refusing to look ashamed even though her hands were trembling. But it won't affect my work. I've already planned everything out, and I can— The father? He interrupted. Natalie felt her throat tighten. Not in the picture. He made his choice. Something flickered across Hyunwoo's face, too quick for her to identify. He moved to his desk, picked up a folder, then set it down again. Your work has been excellent. The Miller Project proposal you drafted last month brought in a $3 million contract.
You mean everything to
Thank
me.
you, sir, but
Will you marry me?
I'm not firing you, Natalie.
Oh my goodness.
The use of her first
Yes, of
name
course
shocked
I
her into
will.
silence. In 8 months of working here, he'd never once used it. Always Ms. Moyo, always formal. He continued, his voice still that same measured tone he used in board meetings. But I am proposing something unusual. Natalie waited, confused and terrified in equal measure. You need security, stability, health insurance that will cover your pregnancy and delivery. He paused, and she could have sworn she saw his jaw tighten. I need someone who understands the demands of this position without complaint. Someone who already knows how I work. I don't understand, Natalie said slowly. Hyunwoo met her eyes directly. Marry me. The words hung in the air like something impossible, like physics suddenly working backward. Natalie actually laughed, a short disbelieving sound. What? Mr. Kim, that's insane. It's practical. He moved around the desk, closer to her, though he maintained a professional distance. You need financial support and health care. I need to get my family off my back about settling down. My grandmother has been persistent. This solves both problems. You want a fake marriage? Natalie's voice came out higher than intended. To your pregnant employee? Do you hear how crazy that sounds? Not fake. Legal. Official, but a business arrangement. Something in his expression shifted, softened just slightly. I saw your file when HR processed your benefits enrollment. You're sending money back to Malawi every month. Your mother's medical bills, your sister's school fees. Natalie felt exposed, vulnerable. That's private information. I know. He had the grace to look almost apologetic. But I also know that raising a child alone in this country is expensive. Daycare costs more than most people's rent. And your ex-boyfriend? He hesitated, then said quietly, He works for Patterson and Associates, doesn't he? Your previous employer? She nodded, wondering where this was going. He's been telling people the baby isn't his, spreading rumors that you're trying to trap him for money. Anger flashed hot through Natalie's chest. That's a lie. I never asked him for anything. He's the one who... I know, Hyunwoo said again, and this time there was an edge to his voice. I had it looked into. He's engaged to the CEO's daughter. Apparently, your pregnancy was inconvenient for his career plans. Natalie felt tears burning again, but she blinked them back furiously. She wouldn't cry in front of her boss, wouldn't give Tendai that power over her. So you want to what? Rescue me? The words came out bitter. I don't need saving, Mr. Kim. No, he agreed. You need a partner. Someone who will make sure you and your child are taken care of. And I need... He trailed off, looking away for the first time since she'd entered. My grandmother is dying. Lung cancer. She has maybe 6 months, and all she wants is to see me settled. Happy. The revelation hit Natalie sideways. Everyone knew Hyunwoo Kim as the cold CEO who lived for work, but nobody knew about a dying grandmother. Nobody knew he had any vulnerabilities at all. I'm sorry, she said softly. About your grandmother. He nodded once, sharp and controlled. She raised me after my parents died. She's everything. And I can give her this one thing before she goes. A wedding. A daughter-in-law. The hope of a great-grandchild. But the baby isn't yours, Natalie pointed out. She doesn't need to know that. He met her eyes again. And legally, if we're married before the birth, I'll be listed as the father unless we specify otherwise. The child will have my name, my protection, my resources. Natalie's head was spinning. This was absolutely insane. People didn't just marry their bosses because of a mistakenly sent photo. This was the kind of thing that happened in the romance novels Chipo was always reading, not in real life. I need to think about this, she managed. Of course. Hyun-woo reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a business card. Not his regular one, but one with just a phone number handwritten on it. This is my personal cell. Call me by Monday with your answer. Natalie took the card, her fingers brushing his for just a second. She noticed his hands were warm, which seemed wrong somehow. Everything about him screamed cold precision, but his hands were warm. If I said yes, she started, then hesitated. What would you expect from me? Professionalism in public, separate bedrooms in private. You'd move into my house in the West End, it has enough space. We'd attend family functions together, present a united front. He paused. And I'd expect you to let me take care of you and the baby properly. Doctor's appointments, nutrition, everything you need. And after your grandmother. Natalie couldn't finish the sentence. We can revisit the arrangement, he said quietly. But I'd want to stay involved with the child. I don't make commitments lightly, Ms. Moyo. There it was again, the formal address. Like he was drawing a line back to normal, back to boss and employee. Natalie clutched the card and headed for the door, her mind racing. Natalie, he called when her hand was on the handle. She turned back. For what it's worth, I think you're incredibly brave, and that ex-boyfriend of yours is a fool. The compliment, coming from the man who never gave praise, nearly undid her completely. That weekend felt like the longest of Natalie's life. She sat in her tiny one-bedroom apartment in the museum district, staring at Hyun-woo's business card while Chipo paced back and forth. A marriage of convenience, Chipo said for probably the 20th time. To your billionaire boss, this is literally the plot of every romance novel ever written. It's not romantic, it's practical, Natalie argued, though her voice lacked conviction. And he's not a billionaire, just very wealthy. Chipo shot her a look. The man owns half the buildings in Richmond. His family's construction company built most of Northern Virginia. He's definitely a billionaire. Natalie dropped her head into her hands. This is crazy. I should just say no. Or, Chipo sat beside her, taking her hand. You could say yes. Natalie, when's the last time you bought yourself new clothes? When's the last time you didn't stress about the electric bill or whether you could afford both your mother's medication and your sister's textbooks? That's not a reason to marry someone, Natalie whispered. No, but it's not a reason to refuse someone's help either. Chipo squeezed her fingers. And maybe there's more there than just practicality? I've seen the way he looks at you sometimes. Natalie laughed. Mr. Kim looks at everyone the same way, like they're slightly disappointing spreadsheets. Not you, Chipo insisted. At the Christmas party last year, when Tendai showed up drunk and started making a scene, who do you think told security to remove him? Who do you think made sure you got home safely? Natalie had assumed that was just normal boss behavior, protecting the company's reputation. That doesn't mean... Just think about it, Chipo urged. What do you have to lose? Everything, Natalie thought. Or maybe nothing. Maybe she'd already lost everything when Tendai walked out, when he chose his career over her and their baby. Sunday evening, she called the number on the card. Hyun-woo answered on the second ring. Ms. Moyo. How did you know it was me? She asked, then felt stupid. He'd probably saved the number. I was hoping it would be you, he said simply. Have you made a decision? Natalie took a deep breath. I have questions first. About how this would actually work. Ask me anything. Your family? They won't think it's strange that you're suddenly marrying your pregnant employee? He was quiet for a moment. My grandmother will be happy. My mother, she'll have opinions, but she always does. My sister will probably see through it immediately, but she'll go along with it if it makes our grandmother happy. And after? When your grandmother... Natalie couldn't say it. I meant what I said. I want to be part of the child's life. I lost my father when I was 7. I know what it's like to grow up without one parent. His voice was soft, vulnerable in a way she'd never heard from him. I don't want that for your baby. My baby, she corrected gently. Not yours. Ours, he said firmly. If we do this, the baby becomes ours. I don't do anything halfway, Natalie. The use of her first name again sent warmth through her chest. She told herself it was just relief, just gratitude. Nothing more. I need some promises, she said, steeling herself. Real ones, not just business agreements. Name them. You don't get to control my life. I make my own decisions about my career, my body, my future. Agreed. You don't get to badmouth Tendai to the baby. When they're old enough, I'll tell them the truth. But I won't let my child grow up thinking their biological father is a villain. Hyunwoo was quiet longer this time. That's very generous of you, considering what he's done. It's not for him. It's for my baby. Natalie felt her hand drift to her stomach, the small bump that was already changing everything. Children deserve better than growing up with hate. You're right, he said softly. I agree to that too. And you have to promise that if this gets too hard, if either of us wants out, we handle it like adults. No lawyers trying to destroy each other, no fighting. We figure it out together. I promise. He paused. Anything else? Natalie closed her eyes, taking the leap. When do we start? She could hear the smile in his voice when he answered. How about dinner tomorrow? There's a Korean restaurant in Carytown. I'll pick you up at 7. This is really happening, she whispered. Only if you want it to, Hyunwoo said. I meant it when I said you're brave, Natalie. You don't need me. But maybe we could help each other anyway. After they hung up, Natalie sat in the growing darkness of her apartment, one hand on her belly, the other clutching her phone. Tomorrow, she'd have dinner with her boss, her future husband, the man who'd just promised to claim her child as his own. This was absolutely insane. But maybe, insane was exactly what she needed. Monday night arrived too quickly. Natalie changed outfits 4 times before settling on a simple navy dress that accommodated her bump without drawing too much attention to it. When Hyunwoo knocked on her door at exactly 7, she was still second-guessing everything. He'd changed too. Gone was the sharp business suit, replaced with dark jeans and a gray sweater that made him look younger, less intimidating. Almost human. You look beautiful, he said, and she noticed the tips of his ears turning slightly red. You look different, Natalie managed, grabbing her purse. Less like you're about to fire someone. He actually laughed, a real sound that transformed his whole face. I promise not to fire anyone tonight. That's probably my limit, though. The Korean restaurant he'd chosen was small, tucked into a converted house in Carytown. The owner greeted Hyunwoo in rapid Korean, her face lighting up when she saw Natalie. Finally, you bring a girl, the woman said in accented English, swatting Hyunwoo's arm. Your Halmione will be so happy. Mrs. Park, this is Natalie, Hyunwoo said, his hand finding the small of Natalie's back gently. Natalie, Mrs. Park has been feeding me since I moved to Richmond. Mrs. Park studied Natalie with sharp eyes, then smiled widely. Pretty. And pregnant. Oh, Hyunwoo, you move fast when you finally decide. Natalie felt her cheeks heat, but Hyunwoo just guided her to a private table in the back. Mrs. Park knows everything about everyone. By tomorrow, half of Richmond's Korean community will know I brought a woman to dinner. Is that okay? Natalie asked as they sat down. It's perfect, he said. Makes it more believable, more real. Mrs. Park brought them food without asking what they wanted, dish after dish appearing until the table was covered. Kimchi, bulgogi, japchae, and things Natalie didn't have names for, but tasted incredible. Try this, Hyunwoo said, putting a piece of something on her plate. It's good for the baby, lots of protein. You don't have to do that, Natalie said, but she tried it anyway. Oh, that's good. What is it? Galbi, short ribs. He was watching her eat with an expression she couldn't quite read. My grandmother used to make it every Sunday. Tell me about her, Natalie said softly. Your grandmother. Hyunwoo set down his chopsticks, his hands folding together. Her name is Soon Yi. She's the strongest person I've ever known. When my parents died in a car accident, she took me and my sister in without hesitation. She was already in her 60s, and suddenly she had 2 traumatized kids to raise. That must have been hard, Natalie said. For all of you. She never complained. Not once. His voice got quieter. She taught me everything. How to be strong, how to run a business, how to honor my parents' memory by being successful. But she also taught me how to make kimchi, how to bow properly at Chuseok, how to... He stopped, looking embarrassed. How to what? Natalie prompted gently. How to love fiercely, he finished. She says half-hearted anything is worse than nothing at all. If you're going to do something, do it completely. Natalie thought about that. Is that why you're doing this? Marrying me, claiming my baby? Because you don't do anything halfway? Partially, he admitted. But also because when I saw that photo you sent, the one of you and your bump, he hesitated, his fingers tapping against his water glass. You looked so happy, and I thought about how your ex threw that away, and it made me angry. Really angry. You barely know me, Natalie pointed out. I know you stay late to help junior associates with their presentations even though it's not your job. I know you remember everyone's coffee orders and bring in pastries when someone's having a hard day. I know you volunteer at the refugee center in Southside every other weekend. He met her eyes. I know, enough. Natalie felt something shift in her chest, something warm and terrifying. How do you know about the refugee center? I pay attention, he said simply. Then, with a small smile, and I signed the approval for your volunteer time off requests. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, Natalie trying things Hyunwoo recommended, him explaining the dishes and their significance. She learned that his family was from Seoul originally, that his grandfather had started the construction company with nothing but determination and a loan from a friend. She learned that Hyunwoo had gone to Yale for undergrad, Harvard for his MBA, and hated both experiences because they felt fake, superficial. Everyone there cared about connections and status, he said, pushing rice around his plate. Nobody cared about actually building something meaningful. Is that why you came back to Richmond? Natalie asked. Instead of staying in New York or going to California? My grandmother was here. My sister was here. And honestly, he looked around the small restaurant, at Mrs. Park laughing with another customer, at the warm lighting and the photos of family on the walls. Richmond felt real. It felt like home. Natalie understood that. When she'd left Malawi, she'd chosen Richmond specifically because it wasn't too big, wasn't too small. Because the Liberian family who'd helped her get her visa had cousins here. Because it had felt like a place where she could build something real. Tell me about Malawi, Hyunwoo said, as if reading her thoughts. I've never been to Southern Africa. So Natalie talked. About growing up in Lilongwe, about her mother's nursing work, and her father's death when she was 12. About her younger sister Chikondi who wanted to be a doctor, about the way Lake Malawi looked at sunset, about Nsima and Chambo fish, and the rainy season that turned everything green. It sounds beautiful, Hyunwoo said quietly. It is. But it's also hard. My mother got sick 3 years ago, and the medical system there. Natalie shook her head. That's why I came here, to make enough money to send back for her treatments. And now you have a baby coming, and an ex who's making your life difficult, and a boss who's proposing marriage. He smiled, but there was something sad in it. I'm sorry. You deserve better than all this complication. Maybe, Natalie agreed. Or maybe this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. When Mrs. Park brought out dessert, complimentary and insistent, she leaned close to Natalie. He's a good boy. Cold on the outside maybe, but good heart. You take care of each other, yes? Natalie nodded, not trusting her voice. Outside the restaurant, Hyunwoo walked her to his car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than Natalie made in a year. But he opened her door gently, made sure she was comfortable, adjusted the seat warmth without being asked. I should take you home, he said, starting the engine. But, would you want to see the house? The one we'd live in if you say yes? Natalie's heart jumped. Okay, yes. The drive to the West End took 20 minutes. The neighborhoods got progressively nicer, the houses bigger, until Hyunwoo turned into a gated community that overlooked the James River. His house was modern, all clean lines and big windows, but somehow it didn't feel cold. There were flower beds, though it was too early in spring for much to be blooming. There was a wide porch with rocking chairs. It's beautiful, Natalie breathed, as he unlocked the front door. Inside was even better. Warm wood floors, comfortable furniture, art on the walls that looked chosen with care rather than by an expensive decorator. He showed her the main floor, the kitchen with its huge island, the living room with windows overlooking the river. And upstairs? He led her up, his hand hovering near her elbow, but not quite touching. This would be your room. The bedroom he showed her was twice the size of her entire apartment. It had its own bathroom with a soaking tub, a walk-in closet, and windows that faced east toward the sunrise. The nursery would be next door, Hyunwoo said, opening the connecting door. The room was currently an office, but Natalie could immediately see how it would transform. Good light, space for everything a baby would need, close enough that she'd hear every cry. And your room? She asked. He showed her down the hall. Also large, also beautiful, but clearly his. Books everywhere, a desk covered in architectural plans, a photo on the nightstand of a young Hyunwoo with an elderly woman who had to be his grandmother. Separate bedrooms, Natalie said, more to herself than him. Separate bedrooms, he confirmed. This is a business arrangement, Natalie. I won't pretend otherwise. But something in her chest felt disappointed, which was ridiculous. She was 4 months pregnant with another man's baby. This was practical. Nothing more. I should probably give you my answer, she said quietly. Hyunwoo turned to face her fully, and in the dim light of the hallway he looked younger, more vulnerable. You don't have to decide tonight. Take more time if you need it. I don't need more time, Natalie said. Her hand drifted to her stomach again, that protective gesture she developed. My baby deserves stability, security, a father who'll actually show up. She took a breath. Yes, Hyunwoo, I'll marry you. He stepped closer, then stopped himself. You're sure? Natalie, once we do this, I'm sure, she said firmly. Are you? Instead of answering with words, he reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his hand covered hers on her stomach, warm and steady. I promise I'll take care of you both. I know it's not love or romance or any of that. But I promise you won't regret this. Natalie looked up at him, at this man who was still mostly a stranger but who'd somehow become her future in the span of a few days. I believe you. They stood there for a moment, his hand over hers, the baby between them like a promise of its own. Then Hyunwoo stepped back, professional distance returning. I'll talk to my lawyer tomorrow about the marriage contract. We'll keep it fair, protect both of us, and I'll call my grandmother, tell her the good news. How much do we tell people? Natalie asked as they walked back downstairs. The truth, mostly. We've been seeing each other quietly. Things moved fast. The baby isn't mine biologically, but I'm claiming them anyway. He paused at the front door. Is that okay? Natalie nodded. What about work? We can't exactly keep this secret. We tell HR first thing tomorrow. I'll recuse myself from your performance reviews, and you'll report directly to my second-in-command. He smiled slightly. No favoritism. You earned your position on merit. Thank you, she said softly. For all of this. Hyunwoo drove her home through the quiet Richmond streets, and when he walked her to her door, he hesitated. I know this is probably too fast, but would you have lunch with me tomorrow? At my grandmother's house? She's been asking to meet you ever since I told her I was seeing someone. You told her before I said yes? Natalie couldn't help but smile. I was optimistic, he admitted, and there was that red tint to his ears again. Or maybe just hopeful. Lunch sounds perfect, Natalie said. Then, on impulse, she stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. Good night, Hyunwoo. She was already inside before she heard him whisper, Good night, my brave girl. Tuesday morning felt surreal. Natalie sat across from HR Director Linda Chen, with Hyunwoo beside her in the small conference room, and watched the woman's face cycle through approximately 12 different expressions. You're engaged, Linda repeated slowly, looking between them. To each other. Yes, Hyunwoo said calmly, as if this was the most normal announcement in the world. We've been seeing each other for several months, keeping it private given our professional relationship. But circumstances have changed, and we wanted to be transparent with the company. Linda's eyes dropped to Natalie's stomach, barely visible under her blazer, then snapped back up. I see. And the baby is mine, Hyunwoo said firmly, before Natalie could speak. Biologically, no, but legally and in every way that matters, yes. Natalie watched him. This man who'd been her intimidating boss just days ago, now claiming her child with absolute certainty. Something warm unfurled in her chest. Linda recovered quickly, professional as always. Well, congratulations to you both. We'll need to make some organizational changes. Natalie, you'll report to Marcus Thompson going forward. Hyunwoo, you'll need to recuse yourself from any decisions involving Natalie's compensation, promotions, or disciplinary actions. Already arranged, Hyunwoo confirmed. Marcus and I discussed it yesterday. Of course you did, Linda said with a small smile. You never do anything halfway, do you, Mr. Kim? After the meeting, Natalie walked back to her desk in a daze. Cheapo practically pounced on her the moment she sat down. Well, did you tell them? What did they say? They were professional about it, Natalie said, still processing. No drama, no judgment, just procedure. And Mr. Kim, how's your future husband? Cheapo waggled her eyebrows. Stop calling him that, Natalie hissed, but she was smiling. We're meeting his grandmother for lunch today. I'm terrified. Don't be. You're amazing, and she's going to love you. Cheapo squeezed her hand. Also, maybe wear the green blouse? It brings out your eyes. Natalie did change into the green blouse, and at noon, Hyunwoo appeared at her desk looking slightly nervous himself. Ready? He asked. Absolutely not, Natalie admitted. But let's go anyway. His grandmother's house was in the same gated community as Hyun-woo's, but older, more traditional. Korean touches everywhere. Stone lanterns in the garden, shoes lined up neatly by the door, the smell of something delicious cooking. Soon-yi Kim was tiny, barely 5 feet tall, with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and eyes that missed nothing. She took one look at Natalie and smiled so wide it transformed her whole face. "Oh, Hyun-woo," she said in Korean, then switched to English. "She's beautiful. You did good." Natalie felt herself blushing as Soon-yi pulled her into a surprisingly strong hug. "It's so wonderful to meet you, Mrs. Kim." "Halmione," Soon-yi corrected gently. "You call me Halmione, or Grandma, if that's easier." She kept one arm around Natalie's waist as she led them inside. Come. I made bulgogi and myeokguk, seaweed soup. Very good for pregnant women. Lots of nutrients." The house smelled incredible, and Soon-yi's dining room table was covered with enough food to feed an army. Hyun-woo's sister was already there, a woman in her late 20s with kind eyes and a knowing smile. "I'm Ji-woo," she said, shaking Natalie's hand, "the spare child, the one who didn't inherit the business or the ice-cold corporate genes." "Ji-woo," Hyun-woo said with a warning tone, but his sister just laughed. "Relax, Appa, I'm just making Natalie feel welcome." She turned back to Natalie. "Seriously though, congratulations, and thank you." "For what?" Natalie asked, confused. Ji-woo glanced at her grandmother, who was busy in the kitchen. "For making our Halmione happy. She's been worried about Hyun-woo for years, thought he'd work himself to death without ever finding someone." They sat down to lunch, and Soon-yi insisted on loading Natalie's plate with everything. "You eat. Baby needs strength. You need strength." "Halmione, she can serve herself," Hyun-woo said gently. "You be quiet. I'm taking care of my granddaughter now." Soon-yi patted Natalie's hand. "Tell me about your family. Hyun-woo says, you're from Malawi?" So Natalie talked about her mother, her sister, her life back home. Soon-yi listened intently, asking questions, making connections. When Natalie mentioned her mother's illness, Soon-yi's face softened with understanding. "It's hard, being far from family when they need you," she said quietly. "I came to America from Korea 45 years ago. My mother was sick, and I couldn't go back. She died while I was here, pregnant with Hyun-woo's father." She squeezed Natalie's hand. "But you make a new family too. Here now. We take care of each other, yes?" Natalie felt tears prick her eyes. "Yes, Halmione. Thank you." After lunch, Ji-woo pulled Natalie aside while Hyun-woo helped their grandmother clean up. "So," Ji-woo said with a grin, "how'd my brother convince you to marry him? Threaten to fire you if you refused?" Natalie laughed despite herself. "Actually, he was surprisingly sweet about it." "Sweet?" Ji-woo's eyes went wide. "My brother? Hyun-woo Kim? The man who once made a junior associate cry because his coffee was 2 degrees too cold?" "That's an exaggeration," Hyun-woo called from the kitchen. "It's really not," Ji-woo called back. Then, quieter to Natalie. "But seriously, I've never seen him like this. The way he looks at you, it's different. Real." "It's a business arrangement," Natalie said, but the words felt hollow even to her own ears. "Sure it is," Ji-woo said with a knowing smile. "Just like how he happens to have been buying baby books for the past week. Found them in his car yesterday." Natalie's heart did something complicated. "He has? Don't tell him I told you, he'd die of embarrassment." Ji-woo's expression grew more serious. "Look, I know you two are doing this partially for Halmione, and I'm grateful really. But Natalie, be careful with my brother's heart, okay? He pretends to be made of stone, but he's not." Before Natalie could respond, Soon-yi called them back to the living room. She had something in her hands, a small wooden box. "This," she said, opening it to reveal a beautiful jade bracelet, "belonged to my mother. She gave it to me when I got married. I wore it for 40 years. She took Natalie's hand and slipped the bracelet onto her wrist. "Now it's yours." "Halmione, I can't," Natalie started, overwhelmed. "You can. You will." Soon-yi's eyes were bright. "You're family now. You take care of my grandson, my great-grandbaby. This protects you. Brings luck." Natalie looked at Hyun-woo, who was watching the exchange with an expression she'd never seen before. Soft, vulnerable, close to tears. "Thank you," Natalie whispered, hugging Soon-yi tight. "I'll treasure it." That evening, Hyun-woo drove Natalie home again, but this time the silence in the car felt different. Comfortable, warm. "Your grandmother is wonderful," Natalie said softly. "She loves you already," Hyun-woo replied. "I knew she would. And your sister? She's nice. Funny." "She's a troublemaker," he said, but there was affection in his voice. "But yes, she's wonderful too." They pulled up to Natalie's apartment, but neither of them moved to get out. "The bracelet," Hyun-woo said finally. "She's never given that to anyone. She refused to give it to my mother, said the woman wasn't worthy of it." Natalie touched the cool jade. "Your mother? She's difficult. You'll meet her soon, probably." He grimaced. "She won't be as welcoming as Halmione." "Because I'm pregnant with someone else's baby?" Natalie guessed. "Because you're not Korean," Hyun-woo said bluntly. "My mother has very specific ideas about who I should marry. A nice Korean girl from a good family, preferably someone she's known since childhood." "Oh." Natalie felt her stomach sink. Will she make this hard?" "Probably. But Natalie." He turned to face her fully. "I don't care what she thinks. This is my decision. My life. And if she can't respect that, she doesn't have to be part of it." The fierce way he said it made Natalie's breath catch. "You'd really cut off your own mother?" "I'd do a lot of things to protect my family," he said quietly. "And you're my family now. You and the baby." Natalie reached out without thinking, touching his cheek gently. "Thank you, Hyun-woo." He leaned into her touch for just a moment, his eyes closing. Then he cleared his throat, stepping back into professional mode. "I'll pick you up tomorrow evening. We need to finalize the wedding plans." "That fast?" "Halmione doesn't have a lot of time," he said softly. "I want to give her as many good days as possible." Natalie nodded, understanding. "Then let's make it beautiful." The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of wedding planning, dress fittings, and increasingly complicated family dynamics. Soon-yi was overjoyed, helping Natalie choose flowers and arguing with the caterer about menu options. Ji-woo became an instant friend, dragging Natalie to maternity boutiques and insisting she needed a whole new wardrobe. But then there was Hyun-woo's mother, Min-seo Kim. Their first meeting happened at an expensive restaurant in Short Pump, with Min-seo arriving 20 minutes late and looking at Natalie like she was something unpleasant stuck to her shoe. "So you're the girl," Min-seo said in flawless English, her accent barely noticeable. "The one who trapped my son." "Mother," Hyun-woo's voice went hard. "Don't." "I didn't trap anyone," Natalie said calmly, though her heart was racing. "Hyun-woo proposed to me. Because you're pregnant. With another man's baby." Min-seo's smile was sharp. "Very convenient timing, don't you think?" "The timing was coincidental," Hyun-woo said firmly. "And we're not discussing this. Natalie is my fiancé, and you will treat her with respect." Min-seo laughed, cold and bitter. "Respect? She works for you, Hyun-woo. She's using you for money, for citizenship, for whatever else she can get." Natalie felt her temper flare. I'm a permanent resident, Mrs. Kim. I don't need citizenship. And I was supporting myself just fine before your son came into my life. Then why agree to marry him? Min-seo challenged. Because he asked. Because he's kind and generous. And because my baby deserves a father who'll actually be there. Natalie met the older woman's eyes steadily. Something your son apparently didn't have much of, given how his father died when he was young. The table went silent. Min-seo's face went pale, then red. How dare you? I dare because you're attacking me for doing exactly what you should be grateful for, Natalie interrupted. Your mother-in-law is dying, Mrs. Kim, and all she wants is to see Hyun-woo happy and settled. I'm giving her that. We're giving her that. Min-seo stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. Hyun-woo, when you're done with this phase, call me. She stormed out without another word. Natalie slumped in her chair, adrenaline fading. I probably shouldn't have said that about your father. No, you were right. Hyun-woo reached across the table, taking her hand. Thank you. For standing up for yourself. For us. She hates me, Natalie said quietly. She hates everyone, Hyun-woo corrected. She hated my father's family. She hates Ji-woo's boyfriend. She even hates Halmyeoni most days. It's not personal. It feels personal, Natalie admitted. I know. He squeezed her fingers. But we don't need her approval. We just need to get through the next few months. Give Halmyeoni her happiness. The wedding was scheduled for the following Saturday, small and intimate in Soon-yi's garden. But as the day approached, Natalie found herself getting nervous for reasons that had nothing to do with Min-seo. She was marrying Hyun-woo. Actually, marrying him. And somewhere along the way, the business arrangement had started to feel like something more. The night before the wedding, Chipo came over to help Natalie pack up her apartment. Most of her things would go into storage, since Hyun-woo's house was already fully furnished. You okay? Chipo asked, watching Natalie wrap a photo of her mother in newspaper. I don't know, Natalie admitted. A month ago, I was single and pregnant and terrified. Now I'm marrying a man I barely know, moving into his house, becoming part of his family. Cold feet? Chipo guessed. More like confused feet. Natalie sat on her bedroom floor, surrounded by boxes. Chipo, what if this is a huge mistake? What if I'm just using him, like his mother said? Are you? Chipo challenged gently. Using him? Natalie thought about it. Thought about the way her heart jumped when Hyun-woo smiled. Thought about how safe she felt when he put his hand on her back. Thought about the baby books Ji-woo had mentioned, the way he'd defended her to his mother, the gentle way he'd put his hand over hers on her stomach. No, she said finally. I'm not using him. But I think I'm falling for him. And that wasn't part of the plan. Chipo grinned. Sweetie, that's the best kind of not plan there is. But what if he doesn't feel the same? What if this really is just business to him? Then you figure it out together, Chipo said practically. That's what marriage is, right? Figuring things out as you go? Natalie's phone buzzed. A text from Hyun-woo. Can't sleep. Keep thinking about tomorrow. About you. Her heart did a somersault. Me too, she texted back. Nervous? Terrified, he replied, but in a good way, like standing at the edge of something important. What if we mess this up? Natalie typed, then deleted, then typed again and sent it. His response came quickly. Then we mess it up together. I'd rather try with you than succeed with anyone else. Natalie showed Chipo the message, and her friend actually squealed. Girl, that man is gone for you. Business arrangement, my butt. That night, Natalie lay in her tiny apartment for the last time as a single woman, one hand on her growing belly, the other touching Soon-yi's jade bracelet. Tomorrow, Everything would change. Tomorrow, she'd become Mrs. Kim. The thought didn't terrify her as much as it should have. The wedding morning dawned clear and warm, spring finally settling into Richmond. Soon Yi's garden was transformed with white flowers and paper lanterns, traditional Korean decorations mixed with touches that reminded Natalie of home. Bright African wax print fabrics draped over chairs, music from Malawi playing softly. Hyunwoo wanted you to feel represented too, Jiwoo explained as she helped Natalie into her dress. It wasn't a traditional white gown, but a beautiful cream-colored dress that accommodated her bump perfectly, with delicate beading that caught the light. He did this? Natalie touched one of the bright fabrics, recognizing the pattern from home. Stayed up half the night with Halmione, planning every detail. Jiwoo smiled. Like I said, he doesn't do anything halfway. The ceremony was short, a blend of Korean and Western traditions. Hyunwoo wore a traditional hanbok, deep blue and silver, and when Natalie walked down the makeshift aisle toward him, his eyes went wide. You're stunning, he whispered when she reached him. You're not so bad yourself, she whispered back, and he actually laughed. The officiant, a friend of Soon Yi's, kept things simple and sweet. When it came time for vows, Hyunwoo took Natalie's hands in his. I know this started as something practical, he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. But Natalie, you've become so much more than that. You're brave and kind, and you make me want to be better. I promise to take care of you and our baby. I promise to honor you, respect you, and stand by you. And I promise to try every day to deserve you. Natalie felt tears streaming down her face. She'd prepared something simple, businesslike. But looking at him now, those words felt wrong. Hyunwoo, she started, her voice shaking. A month ago, I thought my life was falling apart. But you appeared like something impossible. You saw me at my lowest and didn't look away. You claimed my baby when their own father wouldn't. You brought me into your family, into your home, into your heart. She squeezed his hands. I promise to be worthy of that, to take care of you too, to build something real with you, whatever that looks like. And I promise to try every day to be brave enough to see where this goes. The officiant pronounced them married, and Hyunwoo cupped Natalie's face gently, his thumb brushing away her tears. Can I? He asked softly. Yes, she breathed. He kissed her forehead, slow and reverent, and Natalie's whole world shifted. This wasn't just a business arrangement anymore. This was real. The small reception was joyful, with Soon Yi crying happy tears and even Minseo showing up, though she stayed in the corner looking disapproving. But Natalie didn't care. She danced with Hyunwoo to a mix of Korean and African music, laughed with Jiwoo and Chipo, ate too much delicious food, and felt happier than she had in months. As the sun started to set, Hyunwoo pulled her aside, away from the crowd. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. I know we already did rings, but... Inside was a delicate necklace, a small pendant in the shape of a bird. It's a nightingale, he explained softly. In Korean culture, they represent hope and new beginnings. And Natalie, your name means joy in Shona, right? She nodded, surprised he'd looked it up. You've brought both into my life. Hope and joy. He fastened the necklace around her neck, his fingers gentle. Thank you. Natalie turned to face him, this man who was now her husband, and let herself acknowledge what she'd been trying to ignore for weeks. I'm falling in love with you, she whispered. I know that wasn't the plan, but I am. Hyunwoo's eyes widened, then softened. Oh, thank God. I've been falling for you since you yelled at me in that conference room about the Miller project last year. I didn't yell, Natalie protested. You absolutely did. Told me my approach was short-sighted and lacked vision. He smiled. It was the hottest thing I'd ever seen. Natalie laughed, then pulled him down for another kiss, this one on the cheek, but lingering, sweet. We're really doing this, aren't we? Not just the fake marriage part. The real part. Yeah, he said softly. We really are. The first 2 weeks of married life were strange and wonderful. Natalie moved into Hyun-woo's house, now theirs, and slowly made it feel like home. She added photos of her family in Malawi next to his family pictures. She rearranged the kitchen so it made more sense, and he didn't complain, just adapted. They developed routines, morning coffee together before work, evening walks along the river, lazy Sunday mornings reading the paper. And slowly, carefully, they learned each other. Natalie discovered that Hyun-woo woke up at 5 every morning to exercise, but hated it. That he had a secret sweet tooth for honey butter chips. That he called Soon-yi every single night to say goodnight, and had since he was 7 years old. That he played piano when he was stressed, fingers moving over keys in the music room she hadn't even known existed. Hyun-woo learned that Natalie sang in the shower, old Malawian songs her mother had taught her. That she was brilliant at chess, but terrible at poker. That she cried during every animal documentary without fail. That she talked to the baby when she thought he wasn't listening, telling them stories about their grandmother back home, about the life they'd build together. They maintained separate bedrooms, but some mornings Natalie would wake to find Hyun-woo had brought her tea and fruit, left quietly on her nightstand. Some evenings he'd find dinner already made, dishes from Malawi that Natalie had spent hours preparing because she'd noticed he looked tired. They didn't talk about the shift happening between them. Didn't acknowledge that the business arrangement had become something real. It felt too fragile, too new. But then, Tendai showed up. It was a Thursday evening, and Natalie was in the nursery she and Hyun-woo had been slowly decorating. She'd just hung curtains patterned with stars and moons when the doorbell rang. Hyun-woo was in his study on a conference call, so Natalie answered it herself. Tendai stood on the porch, looking exactly the same as he had 6 months ago when he'd walked out of her life. Same cocky smile, same expensive suit, same complete lack of awareness that he'd done anything wrong. "Natalie," he said, like they were old friends. "You look good. Pregnancy suits you. What are you doing here?" Her hand went protectively to her bump, now obvious at almost 6 months. "Can I come in? We need to talk." "No," Natalie said flatly. "We don't have anything to discuss. I heard you got married. To Kim, your boss." Tendai's smile turned nasty. "Nice work, baby. Trading up, huh? Though I'm surprised he wanted you, knocked up with another man's kid." Natalie felt fury rise hot in her chest. "You need to leave. Now." "I'm the father, Natalie. I have rights." "You signed those away when you walked out," she said coldly. "When you told me to get rid of it. When you spread lies about me at work. You have no rights here. That's not legally true, and you know it." Tendai stepped closer, and Natalie instinctively stepped back. "I've been talking to lawyers. Even if you're married, I still have parental rights unless Kim formally adopts the kid, which he can't do without my permission." "What do you want?" Natalie demanded, though she already knew. "My fiancé's father is making noise about the situation. Says it looks bad. Me having a baby with some other woman while I'm getting married to his daughter." Tendai shrugged. "So, I need you to sign over full custody to me. I'll put the baby up for adoption to a nice family. Problem solved." Natalie actually laughed, sharp and bitter. "You think I'm going to give you my baby so you can make your life easier? Are you completely insane?" "I'll fight you in court," Tendai threatened. "I'll make this ugly. I'll tell everyone how you were sleeping with your boss while you were still with me, how you trapped him into marriage. I'll destroy your reputation. Get off my property." a cold voice said from behind Natalie. Hyun-woo stood there, and Natalie had never seen him look so dangerous. His usual controlled expression was gone, replaced by something hard and furious. "Kim," Tendai said with false friendliness, "we were just talking about the baby situation." "I heard what you said." "All of it." Hyun-woo moved to stand beside Natalie, his presence solid and protective. "And here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. You're going to sign whatever termination of parental rights documents my lawyers send you, and you're never going to contact my wife again." "Or what?" Tendai challenged. "You'll fire me? I don't work for you." "No, but I know who does employ you. Patterson and Associates." Hyun-woo's smile was sharp. "They're currently bidding on a $50 million municipal project. My company is one of the decision makers. I wonder how they'd feel about an employee who threatens pregnant women and attempts to extort custody of unborn children." Tendai's face went pale. "You can't. That's blackmail." "No, it's protecting my family." Hyun-woo's arm went around Natalie's waist. "And I'll do a lot worse than blackmail if you ever threaten them again. Do you understand me?" For a moment, Tendai looked like he might argue. Then he saw something in Hyun-woo's face that made him take a step back. "This isn't over," he muttered. "Yes, it is," Hyun-woo said firmly. "You wanted nothing to do with this baby. You don't get to change your mind now because it's convenient. Leave, and don't come back." Tendai left, and the moment his car pulled away, Natalie started shaking. Hyun-woo immediately pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "It's okay," he murmured into her hair. "You're safe. The baby's safe. I've got you." "He said he'd fight for custody," Natalie said, tears streaming. "He said, he won't. I'll make sure of it." Hyun-woo pulled back just enough to cup her face. "Natalie, I promise you, he's never going to hurt you or this baby. I'll do whatever it takes." "You'd really tank a $50 million deal to protect us?" She knew the answer but needed to hear it. "I'd tank a $100 million deal. I'd burn my whole company down if that's what it took." His eyes were fierce, certain. "You and this baby. You're everything. Do you understand? Everything." Natalie kissed him then, properly kissed him for the first time. Not just a forehead or cheek kiss, but a real kiss, desperate and grateful and full of all the feelings she'd been trying to contain. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Hyun-woo rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he whispered. "I know this started as something else, but I love you, Natalie. Completely." "I love you too," she whispered back. "So much it scares me." They stood there in the doorway, holding each other, and Natalie felt something settle in her chest. Safety. Home. Love. The next day, Hyun-woo's lawyers sent formal documents to Tendai. By the end of the week, he'd signed away all parental rights without a fight, probably because Patterson and Associates had learned about his behavior and put him on disciplinary notice. "It's done," Hyun-woo told Natalie over dinner that Friday. "He can't ever claim the baby, and I can start formal adoption proceedings as soon as they're born." "Adoption," Natalie repeated softly. "You really want to be their father? Legally? Officially?" "I already am their father in every way that matters," he said simply. "This just makes it official." Natalie reached across the table, taking his hand. "Thank you. For everything. For protecting us. For loving us. Always," he promised. But their peace didn't last long. 2 days later, Min-seo showed up at their house unannounced. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past Hyun-woo into the living room. "About this ridiculous situation." "Mother, if you're here to insult Natalie again—" "I'm here because your ex-boyfriend's family is making noise," Min-seo interrupted, looking at Natalie. "Apparently, he told them about signing away his rights, and now they're upset. His mother is friends with several prominent members of the Korean community here. She's been spreading rumors. What kind of rumors? Natalie asked, her stomach sinking. That you seduced my son to get a green card. That the baby might not even be Tendai's but some other man's. That you're a gold digger who trapped a wealthy family. Minseo's expression was unreadable. It's affecting our business relationships. So you want me to, what, disappear? Make this easier for you? Natalie felt anger rising. No, Minseo said, surprising them both. I want to fight back. Hyun-woo and Natalie exchanged confused looks. You want to help us? Hyun-woo said slowly. Mother, you've hated this from the beginning. I hated the suddenness. I hated that you didn't ask my opinion. I hated feeling like I was losing my son. Minseo sat down heavily on the couch. But then I saw you with him at Sun-yi's house last week. I saw how you look at each other. And I realized, you actually love him. This isn't fake or a scheme. You really love my son. Natalie nodded, not trusting her voice. And I saw the adoption papers on Hyun-woo's desk. Saw that he's claiming this baby completely. No hesitation. Minseo looked at her son. You're going to be a father. Really a father. And I was so busy being angry about how it happened that I didn't stop to be happy for you. Mom, Hyun-woo said softly, and Natalie heard the little boy in his voice. So, I'm going to help, Minseo said, firmly. I'm going to talk to my friends, to the community leaders. I'm going to make it very clear that Natalie is part of this family, and anyone who disrespects her disrespects me. And believe me, nobody wants to cross me. Natalie actually smiled despite the tension. Thank you, Mrs. Kim. Minseo, she corrected. Or Mother, if you prefer. We're family now, after all. The shift in Minseo's attitude was gradual but real. She started calling Natalie weekly, checking on her pregnancy. She brought over traditional Korean foods that were supposed to be good for the baby. She even started planning a baby shower with Sun-yi and Ji-woo, though the three of them argued constantly about every detail. Your mother is terrifying, Natalie told Hyun-woo one evening as they folded tiny baby clothes together. She was 7 months pregnant now, her belly round and heavy, the baby kicking constantly. She's a force of nature, Hyun-woo agreed, but at least she's on our side now. Are you scared? Natalie asked suddenly. About the baby coming? About becoming a father? Hyun-woo set down the onesie he was folding and moved to kneel in front of her, his hands on her belly. Terrified. What if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough? You'll be wonderful, Natalie said, running her fingers through his hair. You're already wonderful. The way you talk to them, the way you've baby-proofed the entire house, even though they won't be mobile for months, the way you've already picked out books to read to them. Ji-woo told you about the books? He looked embarrassed. She tells me everything, including that you've been practicing changing diapers on a doll. Natalie laughed at his mortified expression. It's sweet, Hyun-woo. You're going to be an amazing father. I want to be, he said softly, pressing a kiss to her belly. I want to give them everything. Love, security, a real family. The baby kicked against his hand, and Hyun-woo's face lit up with wonder. It still amazed Natalie every time how much he loved this baby who wasn't biologically his. I think they already know how much you love them, she whispered. That night, for the first time since they'd gotten married, Natalie didn't go to her separate bedroom. She followed Hyun-woo to his, and when he looked at her with questioning eyes, she just said, I don't want to sleep alone anymore. Are you sure? He asked, even though his eyes said he wanted this too. I'm sure. We're married. We love each other. We're having a baby together. Separate bedrooms seem silly now. They curled up together in his bed, Natalie's back against his chest, his arm draped protectively over her belly. It felt right. Felt like home. I never thanked you. Hyunwoo murmured into her hair. For what? For sending me that photo by mistake. For giving me the chance to love you. For letting me be part of this. His hand spread wide over their baby. You could have said no that day in my office. You could have walked away. But you took a chance on me. Natalie turned in his arms to face him. You took a chance on me too. On us. And I'll spend the rest of my life grateful for that. They kissed, slow and sweet, and Natalie felt the last of her walls come down. This was real. This was forever. The baby shower happened when Natalie was 8 months pregnant, and it was chaos in the best possible way. Soon Yi's garden was transformed again, this time with blue and white decorations, traditional Korean games mixed with African traditions that Chipo had researched. You're sure it's a boy? Jiwoo asked for the 10th time, eyeing Natalie's belly. The ultrasound was pretty clear. Natalie laughed. Why, did you buy girl clothes anyway? Maybe a few things, just in case. Jiwoo grinned. Uncle privileges start now. The party was full of laughter, games, ridiculous baby gifts, and more food than any reasonable group of people could eat. Minseo had invited half the Korean community in Richmond, making a very public show of support for Natalie. Chipo had brought friends from the Malawian community, and Soon Yi had made sure every neighbor was included. We're really blending worlds here, Hyunwoo said, watching a Korean grandmother teach an African auntie how to make kimchi while they debated the best remedies for colic. That's what family is, Soon Yi said, appearing beside them. She'd gotten thinner recently, her illness progressing, but her smile was as bright as ever. Taking different pieces and making something beautiful. She pulled them both close, one arm around Hyunwoo and one around Natalie. I'm so happy. You too, the baby coming. This is more than I ever hoped for. Halmione, Hyunwoo said, his voice tight with emotion. Don't be sad. Be grateful. Soon Yi squeezed them both. You have each other. You have love. That's everything. That night, after everyone had left and the house was quiet, Natalie found Hyunwoo sitting in the nursery, surrounded by all the gifts they'd received. You okay? She asked, settling into the rocking chair with some difficulty. She's getting worse, he said quietly. Halmione. The doctor said maybe another month. Maybe 2. Natalie felt tears prick her eyes. I'm so sorry. She told me today that she's ready, that she's seen me happy, seen us building a family, and that's all she needed. He looked up at Natalie, his eyes red. But I'm not ready. I don't know how to lose her. Natalie held out her hand, and he came to her, kneeling beside the rocking chair and laying his head in her lap. She stroked his hair, let him cry, held him through the grief that was coming. You'll get through it, she whispered. We'll get through it together. That's what marriage is, right? Being there for each other in the hard parts. I love you so much, he said against her belly. Both of you. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'll never have to find out, Natalie promised. Soon Yi passed away on a Tuesday morning in early June, with Hyunwoo and Jiwoo by her side. She'd held on long enough to see the nursery finished, to touch the baby clothes Natalie had picked out, to make Hyunwoo promise one more time that he'd take care of his family. The funeral was beautiful and heartbreaking. Traditional Korean customs mixed with personal touches. Soon Yi's favorite flowers, music she'd loved, stories shared by dozens of people whose lives she'd touched. Natalie stood beside Hyunwoo throughout, 9 months pregnant and exhausted but refusing to leave his side. She held his hand during the ceremony, rubbed his back during the burial, stayed close during the reception afterward. You should rest, he told her when they finally got home that evening. The baby is fine, I'm fine. You're the one I'm worried about. Natalie cupped his face, making him look at her. Talk to me, Hyunwoo. Don't shut me out, I feel like I'm drowning, he admitted. Like there's this huge hole where she used to be, and I don't know how to fill it. You don't fill it. You learn to live with it. Natalie took his hand, placing it on her belly where the baby was doing gymnastics. But you don't have to do it alone. We're here. Me and this very active little boy. We're here. Hyunwoo pulled her close as her belly would allow, and just held on. That night, Natalie's water broke. Okay, don't panic, she said, as liquid soaked through her nightgown. But we need to go to the hospital, like right now. Hyunwoo went from grief-stricken to focused in about 2 seconds. He grabbed the hospital bag they'd packed weeks ago, helped Natalie to the car, and drove to the hospital with impressive calm for someone who'd just lost his grandmother that morning. You don't have to do this today, Natalie said between contractions. If you need time to grieve... I need to meet our son, Hyunwoo said firmly. Halmione would want this. New life, new beginnings. She'd be so happy right now. Labor was long and hard, 14 hours of pain and fear and exhaustion, but Hyunwoo never left Natalie's side. He held her hand, breathed with her, encouraged her, loved her through every moment, and finally, at 6:37 in the morning, their son came into the world screaming. He's perfect, the doctor said, placing the baby on Natalie's chest. Absolutely perfect. Natalie looked down at the tiny, angry red face of her son and felt her heart expand impossibly large. Hi, baby. Hi, sweet boy. We've been waiting for you. Hyunwoo touched the baby's tiny hand with one finger, tears streaming down his face. He's beautiful. Natalie. He's so beautiful. You want to hold him? The nurse asked Hyunwoo. He nodded and carefully, reverently, took his son into his arms. The baby immediately calmed, his dark eyes trying to focus on Hyunwoo's face. Hey, buddy, Hyunwoo whispered. I'm your dad, and I love you so much already. We both do. Natalie watched them together, this man and this baby, and felt complete. Her family, her boys, her everything. Later, when the baby was cleaned up and Natalie was settled in a recovery room, Ji-woo and Min-seo came to visit. Oh, Min-seo breathed when she saw the baby. Oh, he's precious. Look at him, Ji-woo. Can I hold him? Ji-woo asked eagerly. Hyunwoo carefully transferred the baby to his sister's arms. Be careful with his head. I know. Ji-woo stared down at her nephew with wonder. Hi, little one. I'm your auntie. I'm going to spoil you so much. So much. What's his name? Min-seo asked, moving closer to get a better look. Natalie and Hyunwoo had discussed this. They'd chosen the first name weeks ago, but the middle name, that had been decided just this morning. His name is Kian Soon-yi Kim, Natalie said softly. Kian means gracious in Korean, and we're using Soon-yi as his middle name, to honor her. Min-seo's eyes filled with tears. She would love that. She would absolutely love that. Can I tell everyone? Ji-woo asked, already pulling out her phone. The family group chat is going crazy waiting for news. Go ahead, Hyunwoo said with a smile. The next few days passed in a blur of feedings, diaper changes, visitors, and very little sleep. Natalie was exhausted but happy, watching Hyunwoo transform into a father before her eyes. He was natural with Kian, confident in a way she hadn't expected. He changed diapers without complaint, walked the floors at 3 a.m. singing Korean lullabies, figured out the exact bounce and sway combination that got Kian to stop crying. You're really good at this, Natalie said one evening, watching him bathe their son with careful precision. I've been practicing, Hyunwoo admitted. Those baby classes Ji-woo made me take with her? Actually helpful. When they finally brought Kian home from the hospital, the house felt different. Fuller, warmer, more alive. Chipo had decorated with welcome home banners. Min-seo had stocked the fridge with weeks' worth of meals, and on the kitchen table was a note in Soon-Yi's handwriting, left before she died. To my grandson Hyun-woo and my granddaughter Natalie, by the time you read this, your baby will be here, and I will be gone. Don't be sad. I got to see you happy, see you in love, see you building the family I always hoped you'd have. Some advice for parenthood. Love fiercely, forgive quickly, laugh often. And remember that perfect families don't exist, but real families do. You have a real family now. Take care of each other. Take care of that beautiful baby. And know that I'm always with you. Love forever, Halmyeoni Hyun-woo read it aloud, his voice breaking, and Natalie held both him and Kian close. She knew, Natalie whispered. She knew he'd be a boy. She knew everything. She was always too smart for her own good, Hyun-woo said with a watery laugh. The first few months of parenthood were exhausting. Kian was a good baby, but good babies still wake up crying at 2 a.m, still need constant attention, still turn your whole life upside down. But Natalie had never been happier. Watching Hyun-woo with their son, seeing the fierce love in his eyes, knowing that this was real and forever. It made all the sleepless nights worth it. She'd officially gone on maternity leave from the firm, though she kept in touch with projects. Hyun-woo had cut back his hours significantly, working from home most days so he could help with Kian. I'm the CEO, he said, when Natalie worried about it. I can set my own schedule, and I refuse to miss these early days. They go by too fast. They developed new routines: morning coffee while Kian napped, afternoon walks with the stroller along the river, evening baths where Hyun-woo would make up elaborate stories about brave babies and their adventures. And late at night, after Kian was finally asleep, they'd curl up together in bed and just hold each other, grateful and exhausted and completely in love. One evening when Kian was 3 months old, Natalie found Hyun-woo in the nursery, just watching their son sleep. What are you thinking about? She asked softly, wrapping her arms around him from behind. How much has changed? He said quietly. 6 months ago, we were strangers. Now we're married, parents, completely different people. Do you regret it? Any of it? Not for a second. He turned to face her. Best mistake you ever made, sending me that photo. Natalie laughed. Best mistake I ever made was accepting your crazy proposal. Want to make another mistake? Hyun-woo asked with a mischievous smile. What kind of mistake? Let's have another baby. Maybe a couple more. Fill this house with noise and chaos and love. Natalie's eyes widened. You want more kids? You're serious? Completely serious. I love being a father. I love our family. And I love you. He pulled her close. So yeah, I want more. Someday, when you're ready. I want everything with you. You're insane, Natalie said, but she was smiling. Ask me again in a year when I've actually slept more than 3 hours at a time. Deal, he agreed, kissing her forehead. But I'm going to keep asking. When Kian was 6 months old, Tendai's mother tried one last time to cause problems. She filed a legal challenge to the adoption, claiming Tendai had been coerced into signing away his rights. But by then, Natalie and Hyun-woo had built something unshakable. They had documentation of everything, witnesses to Tendai's behavior, proof of his abandonment. And they had Min-seo, who used her considerable influence to make the case disappear quickly and quietly. Some people don't know when to quit, Min-seo said afterward, over lunch at her house. But they're done now, completely. Thank you, Natalie said sincerely, for everything, for accepting me, for protecting Kian, for being in our corner. You're my daughter now, Min-seo said simply. And Kian is my grandson. Of course I protect you. Later that evening, Natalie stood in the nursery doorway, watching Hyun-woo read to Kian. Their son was almost asleep, his tiny hand wrapped around Hyunwoo's finger, his eyes drooping. And they lived happily ever after. Hyunwoo finished the story softly. He set the book aside and lifted Kian to his shoulder, rubbing gentle circles on his back. Just like us, buddy. Just like us. Natalie's eyes filled with tears. This man, this beautiful man who'd claimed her baby as his own, who'd fought for their family, who loved them so completely. He was her happily ever after. Hyunwoo noticed her watching and smiled. "Come here," he whispered. She crossed the room and the three of them stood there in the soft glow of the nightlight. A family, real and messy and perfect. "I love you," Natalie whispered. "I love you too," Hyunwoo whispered back. "Both of you. Forever." Kian made a soft, sleepy sound and they both laughed quietly. "He agrees," Natalie said. "Of course he does. He's a smart kid." They put Kian in his crib together, watching him settle into sleep. Then they tiptoed out, hand in hand, ready for whatever came next. Because they'd learned something important over these past months. Life wasn't about perfect plans or ideal circumstances. It was about taking chances, being brave, and choosing to love even when it scared you. Natalie had sent that photo by mistake. Hyunwoo had made an insane proposal. They'd built a marriage on practicality and turned it into something real. And now they had forever to see where it would go. 3 years later, Natalie stood in the same garden where she'd married Hyunwoo, watching their family celebrate Kian's 3rd birthday. Min-seo was chasing a now very mobile Kian around the yard, Ji-woo was helping set up party games, and Chipo was documenting everything with her camera. And in Natalie's arms was their daughter, baby Arya Soon-yi Kim, born just 6 months ago, because Hyunwoo had kept asking about more kids, and Natalie had eventually said yes to everything he wanted. "Happy?" Hyunwoo asked, wrapping his arm around her waist and kissing the top of Arya's head. "Completely," Natalie said, leaning into him. "You? More than I ever thought possible," he admitted. "You know, my grandmother was right. Half-hearted anything is worse than nothing at all. I'm glad we went all in." "Me too," Natalie agreed, watching Kian squeal with delight as Min-seo finally caught him. "Though I still can't believe this all started with a mistaken text message." "Best mistake ever made," Hyunwoo said firmly. Then he grinned. "Think we should tell people that story at some point? Our kids are going to ask how we met eventually." "Let's tell them when they're older. The whole truth. Messy parts and all." Natalie shifted Arya to her other arm. "I want them to know that sometimes the best things in life happen when everything seems to be falling apart. And that love isn't always perfect or planned," Hyunwoo added. "But it's always worth it." Kian ran over then, breathless and happy. "Daddy, Mama, come play. Halmione says we're doing the piñata now." "We're coming, buddy," Hyunwoo said, taking Arya so Natalie could chase after their son. As they walked together toward the party, Natalie thought about everything that had brought them here. The pregnancy that had terrified her. The boss who'd become her husband. The family they'd built from unexpected pieces. The love that had grown from nothing into everything. "Hey," Hyunwoo said softly, pulling her back for a moment. "I never said it today. Thank you. For taking that chance on me. For building this life with me. For being you." Natalie reached up and kissed him, right there in the garden where they'd promised forever. "Thank you for seeing me, for choosing us, for being exactly who we needed. Always," he promised. And as they rejoined their family, their children, their whole messy, beautiful life, Natalie knew that some mistakes weren't mistakes at all. They were destiny, wrapped up in unexpected packages. She'd sent her baby bump photo to her ruthless boss by accident. He'd claimed her instead, in every way that mattered. And together, they'd built something that would last forever. Not bad for a mistaken text message. Hey, thank you so much for making it to the end of Natalie and Hyunwoo's story. If you loved watching their journey from that accidental text to building a real family together, drop a like and hit subscribe because I post stories like this every single week. Drop a comment telling me which part made you cry the most, and I'll see you in the next one.